Ladies, gentlemen, and nightfarers of all ages, we are now a couple of days into the network test for Elden Ring Nightreign, and one of the more common questions that I've been receiving as somebody who is playing this weekend is, what is the actual equipment like in the game? Is it just a selection of Elden Ring gear, or is it all of it? Is it all the same, or are there differences? And so today I'm going to start by going over the major differences and how to use 3 special unique movesets only available in Nightreign itself right now, then the most major changes to weapons from base Elden Ring, and then at the end, and just for posterity's sake, I'll scroll through the literal entire list of weapons, ashes of war, and spells in the game, in the network test at least, so you can see not only what can drop right now, but the rarity of each item, as well as their scaling, what they scale with. Not that the heroes directly show you what stats they have when leveling anyways, but you can get a pretty good idea by their aesthetics and their starting gear anyways. Moving on then, pretty much every weapon from base Elden Ring is in the Nightreign network test, meaning this doesn't have anything from Shadow of the Erdtree as a DLC, at least as of this moment, and that pretty much all of the weapons perform as they did in the base patch of the game 1.0, meaning that a lot of the animation changes that we've gotten over the years since release are not found here currently, making weapons like axes as a weapon type, for example, feel much slower than they do currently in Elden Ring, so that's something to keep in mind. As for the special movesets that I mentioned, every hero in the game, which is the name that they have for the characters, has one weapon type where they get a unique moveset from every other character wielding the same weapons, with the exception of the recluse, right now at least, as they start with a staff, so obviously no unique moveset to put on that. That said, wylder has a special moveset for greatswords. For the most part, this just speeds up the actual time it takes for each attack in the combo chain. There are some slightly different animations as well, but that's the largest part you'll have, and the biggest actual difference as far as animation changes is that the roll attack with greatswords on wylder is a forward thrust, so that is a massive upgrade to just have thrusts on demand like that on regular greatswords. Then for guardian, the unique moveset is for halberds. This moveset always seems to be whatever weapon the character starts with, so when the full game releases and there are 4 more heroes than we currently have, we can presume that they will also have unique movesets with their default weapon types when that happens. Guardian's halberd moveset then, more than anything, just makes it essentially an infinite combo for the light attack chain. Rather than being a few hits, then a brief pause, and then a few hits, Guardian can just stab and poke repeatedly until you stop pressing the button, or if you run out of stamina, obviously. And I've also heard that he has a unique guard counter too, which makes a lot of sense given his spot as the sort of tank in the group. The final current unique moveset then is Duchess, who gets a unique dagger moveset, and it's worth noting, especially for this one, that none of these apply to power stancing weapons together, which is a shame, as power stancing daggers would be a very nice archetype to aim for rather than the single-handed dagger for Duchess. That said, this is quite unique from the single-handed dagger moveset for other characters. The combos have way more forward momentum on them, which significantly makes up for the tiny range that daggers have in these games, and then not only is the light attack combo 8 total attacks instead of 6, but Duchess keeps her place in the light attack chain in between dodges, so you can attack, then dodge, then attack, then dodge, and then the next attack will be a double slash because it's the third input in the combo, and so on and so forth. You can keep the chain going. This unique quirk of the character of Duchess also directly changes how you use the weapon, as this means chain attacking as a concept can still be very properly used while dodging attacks in the middle, and it makes Duchess's skill cap as a character significantly higher as a result. Recluse then doesn't get a unique weapon moveset, but she does get Magic Cocktail as a skill, which can create up to 14 specific spells for use within the game, and so for the sake of including those two here, here's a lovely Reddit post summing up all 14 of the options that you can create by sucking up the essences from the spells that you use against people. Moving on, the way that the weapons and spawning works in this game, when a weapon drops, it has its own stats, and if it isn't a unique weapon like a somber smithing stone weapon in the base game, it will spawn with a random applicable Ash of War from the pool as well. Then it will be given a random passive. These generally are just stat-based changes, things like increased poise after a successful guard, increased attack while two-handing, and these will usually affect you even if it's not the weapon you have actively in your hands. Even just having it in your equipment will make the passives activate. This can do other things as well, like increased attack while dual-wielding, just a bunch of different attack increases, increased damage negation of various kinds too, and these are random on every weapon except for legendary weapons, which each come with their own in-baked passive, which also makes most of them notably different from their base Elden Ring version. So let's go over each of these in order. The Sword of Night and Flame infuses whichever of the 2 elements you use through the Ash of War itself into the sword, giving you either a magic or fire grease effect to the weapon after use. If you have the Sword of Night and Flame in your offhand, it will also apply the magic buff to your main hand weapon. This is likely a leftover bug from using a lot of base Elden Ring's code, so I do expect that will be fixed by the full release of the game. The Mariah's Executioner's Sword then, as well as the Eclipse Shotel 2, have a passive that gives you the chance to just straight up kill enemies enemies when hitting them with the weapon. This, however, is not something really testable within the sparring room, as nothing in there can actually die, so I can't report how it actually functions past that description really. After that we have Blasphemous Blade, and the passive on this makes these restore health whenever you kill enemies. Essentially the same effect that the weapon does have built into it in base Elden Ring, but turned into a passive for the sake of Nightreign, and so that this passive can also be shared by the Devourer's Scepter legendary weapon as well. Then we have the Dark Moon Greatsword, which is a nutty passive as you may expect. Not only do all light and heavy attacks with this weapon trigger Carrion Retaliation, meaning that you can parry spells by timing your weapon attacks when they're about to hit you, but also all weapon attacks apply magic damage negation reduction to enemies. So as a whole, that's a really nasty combo, increasing your own damage. Then we have the Golden Order Greatsword, which is honestly really neat in Nightreign, making charged attacks remove all ailments and reset all temporary effects. Then we have the Sacred Relic Sword with one of my favorite new effects on Nightreign weapons, a passive that makes it generate a massive ring of light spell around you whenever you do a charged heavy attack. The damage from this isn't insane, but it makes all of your charged attacks have a large AoE on it, and it gives you a secondary form of scaling too, and honestly it's just really fun visually as well. After that we have the Grafted Blade Greatsword, and funnily enough this still has the same Ash of War, boosting your attributes when you use it, even though attributes themselves are hidden on the characters in the game, and it has a potentially very strong passive too that makes you gain attributes for a short time after you kill an enemy, which stacks per enemy that you kill. So if you are in a fight with a boss surrounded by a ton of little guys, this could actually end up being quite a powerful boost, but again we can't really view attributes on our heroes, so we don't even know how much you gain when you get a kill with this. Then we have the Ruins Greatsword as well, which has a passive that just notes the same effect that I had in base Elden Ring, a heavy gravity smash whenever you do a charged heavy attack with the weapon. Radon's Starscourge Greatsword does get a unique and quite useful passive though too, making the third combo attack when dual wielding them, which you do by two-handing the weapon, apply a big gravity pulling effect towards nearby enemies. In regular Elden Ring this would have pretty limited use, but in a game here like Nightreign about speed and efficiently killing larger packs of enemies, being able to easily and freely group your enemies up on top of each other to make them get collaterally hit without an FP cost is quite useful. After that is the Black Blade, and the passive on this simply makes every hit from the weapon apply Destined Death as an effect. That means it's health percent damage loss on every single hit, so not crazy against smaller guys, but that should be quite fantastic against bosses, especially given that group scaling is at the core of Nightreign itself. After that is the Dragon King's Cragblade, and this replaces the jump heavy attack with a Dragon Cloud impaling similar to the Ash of War itself, but much less impressive in general. This one is more visually cool than anything actually properly effective from what I can actually tell. Next up then we have the Morgoth's Cursed Sword, which has a passive that causes explosions of blood flame when you critically hit with the weapon. This won't necessarily trigger often, but again it is a great addition for specifically clearing out groups of enemies rather than for bursting your single target damage. The Hand of Melania gets possibly one of the best passives in all of Nightreign, which lets you get the sort of Bloodborne rally mechanic where you regain health when doing damage after you take damage, and in testing I have straight up ended up healing more health than the damage that I took when getting 3 hits in with my weapon after taking damage, and so this passive is working extremely well as of the immediate moment. Then there is the Winged Greathorn, and this gets a passive that gives it a chance to apply the Ash of War to enemies on hit. This may sound a little bit boring, but it means that you can naturally apply damage negation lowering to any enemy that you're fighting without having to spend FP on the Ash of War to do it. And importantly, this means you are increasing the damage of your entire party against those targets, not even just your own personal damage. After that we have the Axe of Godric with a passive making the second charge attack in a charged heavy combo do an earthquake on the ground. One of the weaker versions of these heavy attack changes, sure, but it is a funky change, absolutely. Marika's Hammer is an odd one as well, adding holy outbursts to the charged heavy attacks like the Radagon boss fight has, but for whatever reason this only seems to work when holding the weapon in one hand right now, not while two-handing it, which I'm hoping is just a bug that will be fixed by the full release of the game. Then we have Bastard's Flail with possibly my favorite weapon passive. This just has a random chance to create a small burst of explosive nebula bits on any hit from the weapon. In practice this seems to be around 1 in 4 hits on average for an extra pop of damage when it happens, but sometimes you can get really lucky and get like a chain of 4 or 5 hits in a row spawning these, which is really awesome to see happen and could cause quite a bit of chaos and fun if you find this weapon in a run. After that we have the Axe of Godfrey, and this has a passive that just boosts the damage of charged heavy attacks with the weapon, but it boosts it by quite a notable amount, with this being the highest hitting charged attacks that I was getting from any of the weapons I was testing for this purpose. Then there's the Bolt of Grandsax, and the passive for this one applies Dragon Lightning to the weapon after you use the Ash of War, essentially like applying a lightning grease to the weapon when you're using it. Then the Mogwin Sacred Spear However, can't really show this in the sparring room, but this has the Bloodlord's Exaltation Talisman effect, where you get bonus attack power when nearby enemies suffer from the bleed status. And given that bleed is health % damage, this again is quite good in Nightreign. Then there is the Fire Giant's Red Braid Whip, and the passive from this makes you, well, actually apply Fire's Deadly Sin to yourself when you use the Dash of War, basically making it actually worse because you have to heal yourself in Nightreign, where healing is pretty limited. So it's a bit of a shame as someone who does generally enjoy using whips in Elden Ring. Moving on though, there's the Grafted Dragon Fist weapon, and this one gets a great passive where when you do a critical hit with the weapon, it basically just fires off the Ash of War from it for free as well. Here's the Ash of War, then here's getting a crit, just so you can see it essentially having the same animation, the same effect. Then there's just a couple more here. The Alliance Greatbow's passive makes it so every single arrow that you fire with this releases a gravity pulse, which pulls enemies in, and this is actually quite strong. Ranged ammo is unlimited in Nightreign, which makes them far more viable of a choice to use, and having a way to group enemies up at will from range for 0 FP cost is actually quite strong as far as I'm concerned. And then finally we have the Carrion Regal Scepter, which has Renala's Full Moon and Glintstone Arc as the spells that are on it, and the passive it has gives you the Carrion Retaliation effect when you cast spells with the staff, so you can parry incoming spells by timing your own cast with this correctly. However, Full Moon is a super long cast time, which makes it dangerous to do this with, and Glintstone Arc only has that effect if you are freshly casting it. It does not re-parry if you chain cast Glintstone Arc on repeat, so it's a little bit of an awkward one for sure. That's it for all the legendary weapons then, so with all that covered, let's just scroll through every weapon, Ash of War, and spell within the game so you can see all that there is to offer. I'll let this play out as I finish up here, and even after I finish talking, so you can just watch it as you please, slow it down if you want to, or pause as you need to check out specific weapons. Hopefully you've enjoyed this then, and hopefully it helps you out in some way with your Nightreign journey. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.